Part 18 of a 20-part series on how to get more listings as an estate agent. Today, I'm joined by Simon Gates. Gatesy, what have you got for us in part 18, mate?
So very much being a mad scientist in this one, Chris, if I'm not already, and you being a stat and data man, I know you're going to love this one. Now, I'm not a man who goes about graphs, pie charts, and formulas on Excel, but there's going to be some gold in this. So what I've looked at is the Bank of England base rate going back to 1694 when it started. Yes, I'm sad I don't have a life. That's over 300 years worth of Bank of England base rates. Okay. Now, I'm going to go all the way to 2008. Here we go. Now, before the 4th of December 2008, the base rate had never been 2% or below. So the 2008 to 2021-22 period is not normal. It is an anomaly. Okay. Get that, if estate agents watching this, get that into the mind of buyers and sellers. We've returned to a more normal market of base and interest rates. So over the last 300 plus years, Chris, the average base rate has been 5.92%. But apparently 4%, the world is ending. Still below the average of the last 300 plus years. Now, that is a very, very long time. So I'm actually going to look at it from the point of view of going back to the last sort of 50-ish years. So you can see all this data here. Last 50 years, it's been 9.11%.
Yeah.
So we're still sitting at roughly half of what it has been in the last half century. So it's not as doom and gloom as what people think.
So do people have to come up with their own spreadsheet to do this?
People watching this, if they would like this spreadsheet, they can contact me. So simon@openingthegates.co.uk, and I'll happily share this in a Google Doc with them. And not only that, it will be a live Google Doc. So each time the base rate changes, I'll update it.
That's very kind of you, Simon. Well done. So boys and girls, you contact Simon through LinkedIn or Facebook, and he'll sort that out for you. Lovely. Any more on this one, mate?
So just moving on slightly from base rates, we talked about the nationwide house price index in a previous video, and it dates back to the sort of, well, about 70 years ago now. So yep. Literally here, we can look at annual, quarterly, and monthly price changes according to the nationwide house price index. Again, I will happily share this with people in a Google Doc, and it will be updated as nationwide change over the years.
Very, very good, mate. Nicely. Thank you very much.
So if we scroll through that, you look at how many times the market has gone backwards, not forwards. Not very often, but the market goes backwards. Very, very rarely. Now, to take that another step, just going to look at some transaction levels here, Chris. So going back to 2005, so we've got just before the peak, before the recession, and then up to where we are now. So look, just before the recession, we were seeing about 1.5 million, roughly. Then obviously the recession happened, and you were seeing 800-ish thousand transactions. And then before the pandemic, it was around 1.1, 1.2. And over that period, just under 1.12 has been the average there for the last, almost 15, 20 years. So again, if agents look at their marketplace, right, what percentage of market share, what do we need to be charging? How much business do we need to be doing? Because that's showing you a really good example of how much business is out there.
Boys and girls, 2023 is going to be a tougher year, and I do believe that transaction levels are going to be much nearer the 1 to 1.1 million. In fact, there are some people saying they could be as low as the early to mid 900s. It means that you have to get a greater share of the smaller pie, and you need to be more business generation focused. Don't wait for it to come to you. Watch these 20-part videos and actually put it into action. As Simon rightly said, you're not order takers anymore, you're order makers.
And on that point of a smaller market share, what transaction levels are going to drop, let's say 25, 30% in 2023 compared to 22, let's say roughly speaking. Something I would be leveraging is, obviously, if you're good at this, what percentage of asking price are you getting? And I love, again, Chris, you talk about loss aversion. You know, that loss is a lot bigger than perhaps a gain. So the money that people could miss out on. This is research going back to January 2009, what the average proportion achieved of asking price. So you can see how it's
Where's
changed
that
over
data
the
from?
years.
I was not
Uh,
informed of this data.
So this is research from Hamptons.
Fantastic. What is the average then? Let's scroll down. I'd love to see the average on this.
So we're going back to January 2009 is when they started this. And the highest point has been 101.2, which was in recent years through the pandemic. The lowest has been 93.5 when the recession happened, just after the recession, and the average has been 97.77%. Now, for annual house price falls to happen, the percentage of asking price being achieved needs to be at least 5% less. So if it's getting to less than 95% of asking price being achieved, we're looking at annual house price falls. Well, as it stands now, we're still around 98%, so looking pretty rosy. And this is fascinating. This is a percentage of properties that sell at or over asking price. So even in the scary times we've had recently, look at how many properties are still selling at or over asking. So again, if that's the UK average, let's say, well, if I'm getting 100% of asking price, you're 1.2% better off with me, or 1.2% worse off with the other agent. And maybe I sell 35% of my properties at or above asking price compared to the average 25%.
If someone wants this, they just have to email you. Remind us what your email address is.
Simon@openingthegates.co.uk.
And you'll send that to them free of charge, without any obligation to use your services.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. Excellent. Boys and girls, that's the end of part 18. Let's move on to part 19. We'll see you on the other side.